What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel, I suppose. Haven't made a video in a while, but this is the fifth installment of the bedliner paint job kind of review videos, kind of showing you guys how stuff is held up over the years. So I do these every year just for the fact that, you know, not a lot of people make videos that show you how things like hold up over time. A lot of the time it's just oh yeah, this is the thing that I did, and then they just kind of leave you to wonder how it holds up. So I've been doing yearly installments, I suppose. This might be the last one that I do, just because it's 5 years. It's a nice round number to kind of end on for these updates. Who knows? I might make a 6-year update, whatever. In a couple years, well, we'll get to that. So if you've seen the other ones before, not a whole lot different going on. Also, the Bronco's there. I'm going to talk about that at the end of the video. So we'll get to that in case you want to stick around and see that. It's almost done, but not quite. So anyway, so a couple of things that you're going to run into, at least with the product that I used, which was the SEM rocket liner. This is not Raptor liner. This is the SEM rocket liner, which is, you know, just a different version of the same stuff, basically. Same bed liner, same purpose, same concept, I suppose, but not the same brand. Number one thing that I notice a lot of recently, and that I've had in, you know, the previous videos, is fading and crack. Or fading would be number one, and cracking would be number two. So I just washed the truck today, had some extra time on my hands, and I went out and pressure washed it, and didn't do any, you know, intense scrubbing or anything, but, you know, just a good pressure wash. So it's been a while since it's had one of those. And I noticed a new crack. So this is a new crack. You can see it appears that the paint, it appears that the paint, if I can get you this to focus, whoa, baby. All right, so the paint itself underneath cracked, as well as the bed liner. You can see that goes down to metal. So yeah, this is new. It just kind of cracked. Not sure exactly why that would happen. You guys can come up with your own explanations on why that might crack. I've had some other issues with cracking on other areas that I'll get to in a second, but this one, since it is brand new, I figure I'll go over that one first. Now this I can fix with a little bit of the bed liner, the original bed liner, on a brush, and fill in that crack, and nobody will really ever know that it's there, but it always will be there. And water already, not that I can tell that it has, just that I know that it probably has gotten back there already, especially since I did pressure wash it. There's going to be water back here now. No matter how much it is or how little it is, there's still water, and there's still going to be moisture back there. So even if I do plug this up, it might be a band-aid for another couple of years, might be fine. At that point, you know, we might have serious other issues with the bed liner that would not be any of our concern, really. So yeah, cracking, this is the only spot where I've had a serious crack kind of on the outside of the truck. I did have an area here a couple of years ago where I ended up having water behind the bed liner, and I poked it with a pin right here. You can see this red area. That is rusty residue from what came out of this hole. So when we did this bed liner, so you can see there's still the original, well, it's not the original paint, but the paint that was on it before is still under there. So what we did is we sanded down the original paint, got all the clear coat off, and then we sprayed the bed liner over top the paint. So we didn't go doing a primer and then a paint, because we just used, or the primer and then the bed liner, we just used the original, you know, paint that was on there, and brought that down to a level where we kind of used that as the primer. So that's what's going on there. But this area here that used to have water in it, since I drained it, now a year or two later, that was 2 years ago, I believe, this is, you can hear the difference, and then to here, it is not attached in this area anymore. It's not attached. So it's basically just holding itself together just the bed liner itself. Like I could take a razor blade and cut this and then like peel it off, like basically right here. It's not connected. So that's the only spot on the truck that's happened, and that's because water somehow got back there. That could have been from a couple of things. It could have been maybe there was some sort of oil or something right here that I didn't clean off before we sprayed it, and then it didn't adhere right, and then water got behind it. Or it could just be that there was a whole microscopic, you know, because you do this in a couple of different, you do a couple of coats on this. You don't just hammer it all on at once. There could be the possibility that one of those coats didn't get complete full coverage, and there could have been like a little microscopic hole, you know, in like the grittiness of the bed liner that would allow water to get past it. So a couple of ways that could have happened. It's not a super big deal, but it's definitely something that you'd want to, you know, at least try to make sure that doesn't happen to you. Just a real quick one here. Make sure your door gaps are perfect, because if they are not, you are going to have your bed liner chip off on your edges. So you don't really notice it when you're standing back this far. You notice it, but it doesn't really bother me all that much. So yeah, that's the cracking and the cracking and the chipping and the water getting behind it aspect of it. Most of the truck is still 100% perfect. Like here, if someone told me they put this on last week, I would probably say, okay, yeah, I believe you. I believe you that you probably put that on last week, other than a little bit of slight fading. A little bit more major fading happens on the roof and on the hood, because it's always out in direct sunlight. So the truck used to be parked basically where my black truck is now, which would get, you know, the sun beating on it all day long, and it was there for about 4 years. Lately I've been parking it over here because we're building a, you know, I'm not building it, but you know, the builders are building a in-law apartment on the side of the house here, so kind of took my driveway away. So I've been parking here, which is not really in direct sunlight anymore, because it's mostly shaded throughout the day, which is probably good for the bed liner, because if you've watched the other videos, you know that the hood and the roof have really big issues with fading. So this will be more drastic once we go look at the roof. You really cannot tell from this camera view. You might be able to tell. So basically, see this imaginary line? It's basically the body line that goes around to where would be like the flatter part of the hood. So this line here, the hood, and then this line around here in the entire hood. That area is fading much more rapidly than anything else because it's in direct sunlight. You can really see it here on the cowl. You see the difference in color on the top versus the side in this crack. That's like the original color versus the 5 years down the road color. So doesn't really bother me all that much, because when you stand back far enough, you don't really notice it. And when you're going down the road, nobody's like, oh my gosh, it's fading on the top, you know. You don't really notice it unless you know the truck. I know that it's there because it's my truck, but somebody else, especially if it's out in direct sunlight, the whole truck is, you don't really notice it. So yeah, up here, really this body line, this is something that we didn't really have so much last year, but even this part is starting to fade. And the camera is going to play tricks on you here. It looks like it's faded a lot more than it is. Mostly in here, but that's also because it looks shinier on camera there than it is in person. So it's not actually like on the camera. It kind of looks like this section here was painted a different color, which isn't exactly the case in real life. The whole rest of the truck looks good. Yeah, I really don't have any other complaints about the underside. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you the top, and you'll get a better idea on the fading, because it's a nice, even, flat area. So original color for the most part, other than a little bit of fading that it's had, versus the color of the roof now. So I'm going to zoom in on this and show you guys another thing. All of the spider cracks. So these started showing up after year 2. They're all throughout the roof, and they're actually all throughout the hood as well, but you cannot see them as much. So the whole roof's like that. You can see it's very filthy up here. You can see the pressure washer. I didn't have as much time with the pressure washer as I wanted to because the gas station that I was at, or the yeah, well, it's not a gas station. It's a car wash place, like a spray it yourself car wash place. The pressure washer was only letting me have 60 seconds in between swiping my card, so I had to swipe my card like 7 times. So I just got sick of swiping my card. So you can see the lines from the pressure washer up here, kind of where I started and ended and stuff, because I was so sick of swiping my card. But this is the best sort of representation of how bad the fading is now. Obviously, we're way up here now. We're like 9 feet off the ground, or however high up we are. Nobody is going to be able to see up here, but that is, you know, as close to the original color as I can get on the roof, and this is what it looks like now. So it's a pretty good comparison. That's why I keep this little light here. No, I don't go driving down the road with that on, but it's I put that on when I was, you know, 17 years old, and now it's just kind of for me to show people how the bed liner's fading. So yeah, so that's what the roof looks like. The hood's not quite as bad, but the roof definitely, you know, that just looks absolutely nasty when you zoom in on it. Doesn't look very good at all, but nobody's ever up here to see it, so it's not really that big of a deal. It really looks horrible though, doesn't it? Really looks really bad the closer I get to it. And this camera's pretty good. Look at that. So that's what we got. That's what the roof looks like. The rest of the truck does not look like that. It's exclusively to the roof, a little bit on the hood, but not much. So anyway, that's it for the bed liner paint job portion of the video. Cracking, fading, and some little water spots. If you're wondering what all this black stuff is, you guys probably couldn't even see it. That's all tar, or rubber, from when they were filling in the lines, or like the cracks on the road. They're filling in the cracks on the road with that rubber. Well, since my tires stick out, got all over the whole side of the truck, and I haven't, you know, if you try to get it off, it just smudges it. So yeah, I don't know. I haven't figured out how I want to go about getting that off yet, since it just smudges it. I need something that's gonna, like, this happened like a year ago, and this stuff is still sticky. I just haven't bothered trying to, maybe not a whole year ago, but maybe it was like the beginning of this summer, but it's still sticky. It's really sticky. So I need something on there that's gonna break that down, without breaking down the 5-year-old bed liner. So when it comes to the fading though, they do sell like clear coats and stuff that you can put on bed liner. This truck does that. It has no, woohoo, that was crazy. It has no clear coat on it. This was just the product sprayed, no clear coat. So if you did use a clear coat that's made for bed liner, I'm sure you would have a lot better results a couple of years down the road. So, but I did not use one of those. Probably should have, but I didn't. So at some point, the bed liner will just get in, it'll just get so bad that I just end up stripping it off and then just painting it with regular paint. Maybe another 5 years from now, that might be something that happens. So, but for 5 years, for a paint job that cost, I don't know, since we did it ourselves, it was less than $1,000, and it does the job. It definitely is something different that you don't see every day. So I don't regret it. I just have come to terms with the fact that it's not going to stay perfect forever. So yeah, that's that. And just a little quick update on the Bronco for anyone that cares, or anyone that's seen the Bronco videos and you're wondering, oh, I wonder what's going on with the Bronco. So I finally have gotten some time to work on it, and now it runs and it drives and it stops. It doesn't run very well because we still have the stuck lifter, the issue with the engine there. So I've just been kind of leaving that off. At some point, that'll be like the last thing we do, and then the truck will be ready to be on to go on the road. I'm not really super concerned with it. I just need to, you know, it's going to be the last thing that I do. So whether I do it myself or whether I pay someone else to do it, which is probably more than likely because I want it done correctly, and most of the stuff that I do ends up being, you know, 99% correct, but I want something like that. I want it to be 100% correct. So you can see we got a new front bumper on here. Looks pretty nice. Yeah, that's the Bronco. It's not done yet, but it's, you know, it's pretty much there. I had to end up dropping the tank back out and fixing the fuel pump because there's a little clip on top of the tank that popped off because it's a really low quality clip, and I had to buy an aftermarket one because the mice chewed the original one. So that popped off, and I was like, I didn't know why my fuel pump wasn't running. I'm like, the fuel pump's brand new. I fixed all the wires that the mice ate that went back there to the fuel pump and the taillights and whatever else. And the taillights still worked actually, but they chewed the ones to the fuel pump and stuff. So I was like, that's all new. I don't know what the hell's going on. So I dropped the tank out the other day, and it turns out that the clip on the top that clips all the wires into the sending unit, that the clip had just popped out because it was just a really low quality clip. So anyway, that's it. I'm hoping that the Bronco will be ready for next spring, hopefully, or maybe like, I don't know, midsummer next year, depending on how much it's going to cost. Transmission may or may not need to be rebuilt. It shifts really hard. It has plenty of fluid in it, so seeing that it has plenty of fluid in it and it's still shifting hard, it could be, I don't know, kind of on its last leg there. So I obviously haven't been able to get it up to speed where it's had to really shift itself yet. It's just kind of me putting it in drive. I put it in drive and it goes, you know. So I haven't been able to really test it out on the road or anything because it's not ready for the street yet. It's a lot of little things I need to, you know, figure out before I register it and get it inspected and whatever else. So it hasn't been on the road yet, but just driving around here, I have noticed that the transmission, it feels like it doesn't have the amount of power that it's supposed to have. I feel like it's kind of like what my orange truck felt like just before the transmission went. Like you could floor the thing and you didn't really go very far. So like it's kind of making me think that I'm gonna need to do something about that. Yeah, it's still here. I'm still kind of working on it a little bit. So okay, this video is way longer than I thought it would be, so I'm gonna leave it at that. Thank you guys for watching. If you're thinking about doing a bed liner paint job and this video helped you out, make sure to put a like on it. Subscribe if you want to see when the Bronco eventually does get finished and we get to drive it around and maybe take it down some trails and stuff. So yeah, that's gonna do it for today. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you later.